Hey, welcome to Casey Cares. We're the voice of Kansas City nonprofits, and we share the stories of local nonprofits and the individuals who drive them. At Casey Cares, we connect the nonprofit and the business sectors to enhance the quality of life in Kansas City for our residents and our visitors. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing, Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Homelessness is something we hear about far too often, and it's happening right here in our own community. In our metro area alone, more than 2,000 people, including children, are unhoused each night. The good news is there are incredible organizations stepping up to help, meeting people with compassion and dignity. One of those is Uplift Organization, a mobile street outreach program that reaches more than 1,000 individuals every week. Uplift doesn't wait for people to come to them. Their teams head out nightly, meeting our unhoused neighbors where they are, offering supplies, support, food, and just as important, kindness and connection. Joining us to talk about Uplift's inspiring work is the organization's president, Ross Desert. Welcome.
Thank you, Ruth. Happy to be here this morning. Thank you.
Wow. You are doing incredible work, and I think incredibly hard work. Capture for us, I hope I gave just a little peek in my introduction, but capture for us, share with us what Uplift is and what you do.
Sure. I think the easiest way, the way I explain it all the time is just imagine if you and I were friends and we had some other family or neighbors and we decided we're going to load some things up in the car, some food, some clothes, things that we think might be helpful, and go help some of our neighbors who are out there on the streets. And we did that, and it went pretty well, and we did it again, and then we did it again, and then it became a regular thing. That's basically what Uplift is. It is ordinary people. It includes people of all ages, all walks of life, different religions, political factions, just ordinary people who come together around this cause and do something about it. And so that's essentially what it is in a nutshell. It's just grown over the years.
And now, were you involved since the very beginning? The very beginning?
No. This thing Uplift started in 1990. So we're in year 36. I joined, I started as a volunteer myself in 2013. And started as a volunteer driver, and here we are today. So,
what motivated you to get involved with this organization?
You know, I had heard about it, but I never really bothered to look into it. I found it interesting, but then one day I found myself there, and I was on a trip with a group. I was a teacher at the time. I was a high school teacher, and at one of the local private schools. And one of the things we would do is take sophomore year. We would take sophomores, load them up on a bus, go to a few different places so they can get exposed and see different places they can volunteer and serve and things like that. So I found myself one day at Uplift, and I was like, this is awesome. I love it. I'm interested. What do you need? What can I do? And the woman who was leading at the time, Kathy Dean, she said, well, what are you doing on second Mondays? I need a driver on second Mondays. And I didn't have a great answer for her. There's no recurring thing on my calendar. And so I said yes. And then I immediately, it made an impact on me. And I connected with the work and the people, and it was just something I wanted to do more of. So pretty soon I was driving a few Mondays a month, and then every Monday, and then asked to coordinate the drivers and the routes and things as a volunteer still. When Kathy retired a few years ago, I was asked to lead the organization, and so here I am.
Well, I think there's more there. So I want to dive into that. So you said you were a teacher. Tell us a little bit about kind of your journey, what you were doing in life when this kind of struck you as, this is my next chapter.
You know, it was like a lot of volunteering. It's something that we might have a connection with, a mission or a cause or an organization. And I think I was at a time in life where I was going through some transition myself in my own, family life, personal life. And I needed to step outside of myself a little bit and serve. And so I was kind of looking. I was on the lookout for something. And this is an interesting anecdote, I think, about service, and I think it applies to most of us, that I always thought I was a person who volunteered and gave and served. But until I started doing this and doing it regularly, every month or every 2 weeks or whatever it became and evolved into, I think I started to realize that the commitment of that consistency, that recurring regular thing, I started to see the organization as a part of my life, and I was a part of it, and that changed everything. And so all these years I thought, I'm a pretty good guy, but it was very much occasional volunteering and service. And so one of the things that Uplift has taught me is just the value of this regular, recurring, committed type thing. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be every day. It can be every quarter or once a year. But that commitment, I think, binds us and connects us to an organization, a cause, and things like that. And so, yeah, I was looking for something. And I think that commitment and the organization taught me a lot and brought me in deeper. Yeah.
You found each other.
We found each other.
I'm curious, you said in the beginning you had taken some students. You were teaching at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
What was it like to go with students, and kind of what was their reaction? They're young, they're impressionable.
Yeah. Well, I'll say on that trip, it's kind of squirrely. You get sophomores and there's 50 of them on a school bus. And I don't know if the impression or the impact is that deep that day. But I think what you're getting at, or what you're inquiring about, is young people and their impressions of Uplift, especially, and service in general. But I think that's one of the most powerful, impactful things for any nonprofit, is to bring in young people, as the next generation, to form them, but then also to feed a society that cares and gives and serves and is philanthropic in a sense. To develop that in young people, but also to be the beneficiary of that, is awesome. They have a different perspective. Mm-hmm. It's refreshing. I have to remind myself constantly that, they really don't know much about this. If I'm 50 years old and I've been around the world a little bit, and you kind of know things about homelessness, and I've got a clue. They come in with the most basic, innocent questions. Young folks do. Elementary students, middle school, high school. And it's refreshing, but it kind of takes you back to this basic concept of what's going on here in our society. What is happening? Who are these people? Why is it this way? Why is it not different? All those kind of questions that we kind of forget about as adults because we get into our biases and our stereotypes and our perceptions and our perspectives over time from the experience of living. They don't have that. So they're kind of fresh, raw set of eyes on this thing. And it's really kind of fun to be a part of, I'll be honest with you.
Well, let's get into the actual work that you all are doing. You're doing mobile response. Take us through maybe a night that you all go out. What does that look like?
Sure. So we have a warehouse, a home base that we've been in for almost 30 years, 28, 29 years, something like that, at Truman and Prospect. And it is an old building. It's kind of ugly. It's kind of beautiful at the same time. And it's big. It's 18,000 square feet. We have 4 Sprinter vans that go out. And so they're inside the warehouse. And that warehouse is just this channel, this vessel of all this community generosities, donations coming in of food and clothes and all kinds of things. We'll get into that later. But the experience of going on the route, we go out in the evening for a number of different reasons. The main one is that's when people are available to do this work, but also that's when a lot of the agencies or organizations or resources that are helpful for folks there's not a lot of dinner service. There's not a lot of help in the evening. And so it kind of helps both ways. So Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday evening, all those vans go out. There's a lot of other things that happen during the week, but that route shift, last night they went out. Those vans leave at 6 p.m. Our volunteers show up around 4:30, 4:45. They're coming from work or school or whatever. So they show up and there's some getting ready is what I call it, is get ready time. And that's loading up things and stocking these bins that go into the vans. And that happens for about an hour or so to get everything ready. And then they kind of circle up. We talk through a little bit about what we're going to do here and what the mission is. And that's all volunteer led. I love it because there's, volunteers are leading this thing. I'm not. We're not. We have a very small staff, but we sit back. So that's who's going on the routes. That's who's leading the routes. That's who's doing the thing. Each of the vans has a route driver, and those drivers are kind of regular, recurring, trained. They know what they're doing. They know the people, the locations, and kind of how to work this thing. And it's kind of a repeatable thing when they go out on the routes, but every night is unrepeatable. And so when they go out there, people have jobs. Somebody's doing the food. Somebody's doing the drinks. Somebody's, getting the items that they request or ask for. They pull up to a stop. Each of those vans has a kind of a preset route, and they'll go to 5 to 8 locations. There might be 2 people at some. There might be 32 people at another. And they just help the people that are there. And sometimes you're there for 10 minutes. Sometimes you're there for an hour. It just depends on how many people. And there's the material provision side of this, Ruth, but there's also the time that you're spending with these neighbors, which I had never really done before. I'm not afraid to say hi to a homeless guy or, whatever, but I had never spent any time with them. And that's a big part of what's happening out there. You're at this stop for 30 minutes or an hour or something, and you're talking to people, while they're getting help or while they're waiting. And that does something else for them and for us.
We're talking with, no, that's perfect. I want to go back in. I was just going to reintroduce you to our audience. We're talking with Ross Desert. He is the Executive Director of Uplift. When you're going out, these are regular stops. You know where to find folks who are unhoused. What's the reaction that you get from recipients?
It's amazing. We ask people when they go out for the first time, say, what was something that really surprised you or that was different than what you expected, right? You come into this night expecting something, and then what met your expectation, but what was surprising about it? And the number one response is how grateful and appreciative and nice these folks were. I don't know what we think is going to happen. They're going to get mad at us or be rude or something, but they're just so grateful. When we show up and they don't have, they've been wearing the same pair of socks for 3 weeks or something, or they don't have a coat, they don't have enough of something, or we've got a pair of shoes that are going to fit them, or they haven't eaten all day and they're getting a good hot kind of home cooked meal. They're just so appreciative. I would say, are there some who are not? Are there some who are crabby and unappreciative? And yeah, of course. Yeah. But so am I. There's days where I'm crabby and unappreciative, and you just ask my wife and children. And we all are, but they're just, it's amazing how appreciative they are and how much it matters to them. And I'll add one more thing to that. It's the consistency of the way that we show up consistently really matters. They know they can count on us. It's not like we're going to show up sometimes. It's not like if the weather's bad, we're not going to show up. We go. It can be raining. It can be hot, 100 degrees. It can be, 5 degrees and 6 inches of snow. And they know that Uplift will be there and show up for them. And that really matters. And just that somebody cares enough to come out there. So I think that's moves them in a sense and keeps their hopes and spirits up. Yeah.
I would think it's very important for those who are unhoused to have something that's consistent in a good way. Yeah. And it seems like you're filling part of that for these folks.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about where your donations come from. How do you get the things that you're able to take out to folks?
I mean, Kansas City is an amazing city, and I think we all know that. But when you do something like Uplift, and from my seat, what I see is unbelievable sharing and generosity and serving, and just a city that cares about our neighbors this way, So yeah, the stuff that we take out, I'd start there, because primarily that's what we're doing. We're taking out stuff. We're taking out clothes and socks and toothbrushes and all of it. That comes from your closet, my closet, from our community. It comes sometimes individually. Sometimes it comes from donation drives that are done through churches or schools or companies, civic organizations, Rotary clubs. I mean, we have over 200 partnerships, like active partnerships. Of many of those are supportive, but some of them are mutually supportive. We can get into that later. But we just have a lot of generosity coming our way with the items that we need, and that's something where we all have something we can share. We all have an extra coat somewhere. We all have 11 pairs of shoes, but we only need 2. We all have food that we can share. We all have a little bit of money that we can share. And I just see that over and over again. And it just feels like it's increasing every year. It just grows a little bit more. And so the food comes from your kitchen and my kitchen, or from restaurant and catering partners. We have restaurants that cook for us once a month and they bring this food in, or we've got caterers that we do what we call food recovery or rescue after events, and we go pick it up and bring it back to our place. And some of it goes in the freezer, some of it goes in the fridge, some of it gets turned into something else. But we don't really buy much. We don't really buy a lot of things. And when we do, it's like wintertime. We buy sleeping bags and boots and certain things that we don't get enough donated because people don't have a lot of extra snow boots laying around. So we got to buy them. But the support, the financial support that we need for that just comes pouring in. And so I'm just edified every day. It's just, I have the look. I'm the luckiest guy with this job. I just watch this river of generosity coming in different ways over and over and over again. And sometimes it's the widow's mite, and sometimes it's the giant effort, and it's all awesome. So I don't, if that answers your question with the in kind. If you're asking about financial support, where that comes from, it is largely individuals. We have churches, companies, again, Rotary clubs or civic groups that also support us in big ways, but mostly it's coming from individuals. We have some grant funding through a handful of foundations, but we don't do any government funding, city grants, county grants, or anything like that. Yeah.
Why don't you? I think that's interesting. So many nonprofits, have some formula where they get some government funding.
It's kind of in our DNA. It's kind of it's not written in the bylaws, but knowing the gentleman who founded this is still alive, and I get to talk to him every few times a year. He's come to visit and things like that. He lives he lives out in Idaho now, but part of this is that this needs to come from the community. Just comes from you and I. That's a big part of it. We also don't want corporations supplying everything either. So I could go to Hanes and get all of our underwear possibly, but that takes away your agency or my agency or your participation. And so we're big on that. Government grants come with a lot of restrictions and scrutiny, and just not that we don't. I invite the scrutiny. That's not the issue. It is just you got to jump through this hoop and that hoop. Certain reporting requirements. Some of those are reasonable, and some of them are just totally unreasonable. But the bigger thing is they can start to tell you what to do and put limitations and restrictions on your actual living out of your mission. And this mission started with a religious motive, if you will. That's baked into our DNA. It's who we are, but it is not front facing. And so I'd say probably 75% of the people that are involved with Uplift have some sort of a religious or spiritual motive behind what they're doing. And we don't want the government to interfere with that ever. And there have been chapters and times over the years where they come and they say, hey, we want you to stop doing this or that. And we do have that religious motive that we can fall back on, that this is an exercise of religious freedom and that you might call mercy works for our neighbors, and Samaritan type stuff, all kinds of things you can pull in here. But That's a big part of it too, is we really just don't want the government telling us what to do when they don't need to. Yeah.
You're able to sustain your work without it. Kudos to you.
Yeah. And we've had chances, could we grow and do different things yet? But we don't need to do that. And so if we don't need to do that, I'd rather just have conversations with individuals who want to generously support Uplift and just have those relationships and those, conversations and support than deal with a grant portal online that crashes. Anyway.
So what are the challenges that you all face as an organization today, also in an environment that's very contentious, et cetera? What are you looking at and how are you trying to solve it?
There's some good questions there. There's multiple questions in your question.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. I think that one thing that you're kind of hinting at is the times that we're in and some of the challenges that we face as any organization, whether it's a nonprofit or it's a church or it's a public elementary school down the street, is that we have a very diverse society, right? Racially, economically, politically, religiously, all these different things. And sometimes we're unified and undivided, but other times right now it feels like we're a little bit divided. One of the things that I really didn't understand until the last couple of years with Uplift, or the last 4 or 5 years with Uplift, is that, sometimes I'm serving with somebody or a volunteer that's really kind of opposite of me in many ways. I might have this kind of personality and they have this kind of personality, or they have these beliefs and I have those beliefs, but we're there for the same reason. And that's really beautiful. We kind of come together. You might get on that van and you drive a big Ford F-150 and you wear a red hat, and somebody else is driving a Prius and they got a, different set of views. And you're going to go out there and serve the poor together, and it brings people together. And you start to respect each other a little bit differently. You go, wow, I love that person. And so I think that's one of the kind of weaving of this fabric of society that nonprofits tend to do pretty well. I think there's some who get ideological and they divide, but most nonprofits, I think, are bringing people together. And it's just beautiful to be a part of. Oh, there was something else in there that you asked about. Challenges.
What are they for you all, and how are you trying to find solutions?
Our challenges, it seems like it would be like, oh, this is so hard to do, to gather up all this stuff. And, we basically put a thrift store and a food truck on wheels and go out there and serve, 400 people a night or so, which is crazy when you think about it. It's like catering in a food truck and then you're loading up a thrift store. You think that would be the challenging part, or you think that getting volunteers would be the hard part. The hardest part for us has been that this thing grew over the years and just continues to grow. And it was all volunteer until just a couple years ago. We didn't have any paid staff. The organization is a little bit underdeveloped in terms of we don't have an accounting department, a communications department, a fundraising department. We don't have staff for that stuff. It's been kind of put together by volunteers, which is beautiful, but it's also limited us. And so really focused right now on the challenge of building this organization. I am focused on building this thing and our board for the next 35 years. Been around for 35 years. Let's make sure that it's here and it's built to last. And, that involves some internal work of staffing and strategy and then funding and budgeting and all of that stuff and generating the support. But it's kind of doing it while this thing is already built and going full steam. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest challenge, to be honest with you. So we went from 0 staff to then me. We brought on another, and then we've got another. So 3 of us right now, and we're just kind of growing this out at a nice steady pace. That's our biggest challenge. And that's really, to me, that's our only challenge. And there's the perpetual challenge of what we see every night and deal with, and the struggles of the people and all of that. That is definitely a challenge. It is heartbreaking work. So I don't want to minimize that at all. But our organization, that's probably our biggest challenge is our internal and building this up to where it needs to be. Yeah.
How do you prep your volunteers before they go out at night? I'm sure you have regular volunteers, but the newbie who comes to you and what they're about to see and experience.
Yeah, that's a great question. Most of the time, what we're trying to do is get people on the van, maybe have a few people who've been out before and are regulars, and then some new people, so they kind of can work off each other. But we've got nights where it's everybody's brand new. It's not very often, but it happens. Or we've got a group that's coming and they're all coming out for the first time. The key, I think, is I started by describing this as ordinary people putting stuff in the back of the car. That's what it is. And so you could show up tonight, tomorrow, we go out tomorrow night. You could show up tomorrow night not knowing anything, and it's really just human compassion and empathy and what am I going to put on this van? How am I going to talk? That's what I was scared of when I first did it. The first night I went out, I was petrified that I would say something stupid and say something wrong or insensitive to somebody. Maybe that's a weird fear, but that's what mine was. I was afraid I was going to put my foot in my mouth. I was like, I don't know how to have a whole conversation or do this. So, but that was quickly set aside. But we're all prepared for this. We all have this in us that we want to help someone. You see someone right in front of you and they need help and they need food. It's a pretty natural thing. And you don't need to be, worried about that. This is not work that's done by professionals. We're not doing casework. We're not doing, housing, addiction counseling, any of that stuff. Ordinary people, direct aid, and then the human compassion and eye contact and just asking their name, using their name, a little bit of small talk and Chiefs or the weather, or you start to get to know them a little bit. So that's just human to human. And so anybody can come in here and do this thing. I will say some people come in and they're nervous like I was, but most people come in, it has an impact on you, but I don't think most people don't feel too overwhelmed with it. I think that having the drivers and kind of the template or the roadmap for this thing over all this time puts people at ease too.
What is the best way for folks to connect with you, to donate, to volunteer, et cetera? Sure. Where should they go?
I mean, it's 2025, so it's the internet, right? And so our website we have a great domain name, easy to remember, and it's uplift.org. O-R-G, uplift.org. And on there, it's not a great website. We're working on the new one, but it has what's needed on there. And it has a tab for volunteering or for donating items or for donating funding, giving. It has all the different ways of giving, monthly giving, one-time giving, all the different ways you can, channels and means to do that. Volunteering, the main ways are go out on the routes, but we also have volunteers in the warehouse that are sorting the donations, getting everything ready. That happens all week. So there's people in different times throughout the week doing that. And then cooking. Some people are doing, cooking and it tells you how to get involved with those things too. So
it's uplift.org. Ross, thank you for the work you're doing in our community. So important. Encourage folks to check out the organization, human to human contact, the very best. So thank you for what you do in our community.
Thank you. Can I offer one more piece or just a short invitation?
Sure.
I think we struggle as a society to address homelessness. We are taking people out on the vans, and it's you and I getting introduced to these people and meeting them. And the experience of getting on that van just one night really changes us. It does something to us. It's a night you won't forget. And so basically what I see happening is we get on this van, you go back to your workplace, your home, your community, that message gets shared out, your experience gets shared, that starts to impact somebody else. To me, that's how we change society and become a city that cares about this or prioritizes it a little bit more. So my invitation is this: get on that van just once in your life. If you don't like it, don't come back. That's okay. If you like it, then it changes you. And I think that spending time with the homeless will change how we, as a society, choose to address it or prioritize it. And so get on that van once in your life. That's my invitation.
Well, thank you. And thanks for joining us for Casey Cares. We're Charitable Communications is our producer, a nonprofit. And this segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. You can check out our website at Casey Cares Online and find us on social media at Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio and at Instagram at Casey Cares Online. And don't forget, Saturday mornings, tune in at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Thanks for joining us.